Welcome to another coffee break. We're doing another one the week after our last one, partly because we wanted to let you know how awesome the last webinar was, or at least I thought it was awesome.
It
Your
was. It was
brain,
really,
your
really
brain
enjoyable.
astounds me, honestly. There's so much in there, so much good stuff. It was so nice to have so many people. Some folks we knew, some were brand new, so it's great to see so many people. Did you want to say anything about that before I pick your
Yeah,
brain
no,
about the
I
next
just
one?
I just that it felt like such an important conversation in this moment, in so much liminality. It felt important to be naming it and to be in a circle of people that were like so responsive to, oh, you're speaking our language, like, and so that insight of we're in a current collective liminality that is worth unpacking a little bit and naming, and that felt really important and really I felt it felt significant, I would say, in this moment.
I agree.
Yeah.
Speaking of significant in this moment, I woke up this morning, as I mentioned before we started recording, feeling like, oh, good, the Grounded Guide webinar is coming up. How do we be grounded guides when the ground feels so unstable, Heather? I don't expect you to have all the answers, but I know that, we're going to talk about the qualities of a grounded guide. So I'm curious if you have any just thoughts off the top of your head about how we can stay grounded when times feel so chaotic, when the
Yeah,
liminal space isn't just transitional and shaky, but it feels like chaotic
yeah,
sometimes. How do we
yeah.
stay grounded in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're touching on the whole point of what we're doing is like how to resource people for this kind of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And more it feels pertinent. Like we're not just talking about localized chaos, we're talking about global kind of, the world feels really shaky. And as I mentioned, some of the language that Francis Weller uses around the long dark, that we are moving into this period of significant darkness in some ways, and chaos, and nothing feels familiar. And how do we equip ourselves for that? And yeah, I have a lot of thoughts because it's been something on my mind for many, many years. I've shared this story before about how I heard somebody speak one time, and they were talking about how um, what we need is people that are equipped for the darkness. People are equipped to go into the darkness and hold a light and carry a light, and that's what we want to help people be, is those the light bearers in the dark times. And so how to stay grounded in that is the big question, is like, how do we find our ways of maintaining some inner calm, some inner wisdom, and access to like having deep roots. And the things that come to mind are like, what are you rooted in? Who are you rooted in? Who are your people that you're rooted in? Who are your communities? What are your the things that will be sustainable even when things get chaotic? Who are the most valuable people to be connected to? How are you connected to the land that you're on, the place that you live? Are you spending time, like, this is one of the most important things, and I say this again and again, one of my most important resources is going for walks in the woods or by the lake, and sitting by the lake and by the water. Like, nothing grounds me quite so much as being out in nature, and I have to do that on almost a daily basis as much as possible, because otherwise I notice my nervous system get out of whack. And so I would say, like, find really physical ways to ground yourself in the landscape you're in, and find people, find the communities to ground yourself, sit with those people, and in silence if you need to. We talked about the concept of kartsaluni in our call, which is an Inuit term for sitting together in the darkness, waiting expectantly for something to happen. um, Being with people like you and I on our weekly calls, we usually start with some kind of rant about what's going on in the world, and then we sort of soothe ourselves, and we come to a place of calm and remind ourselves what our work is to do in the world. But you have to sort of get rid of, it's like shaking off some of that big feelings first to get back to that place of calm. But that's what like co-regulation is about, is finding the people and calming with them. Not finding the people that keep you activated, because those people are around too and they want to stay in activation and rage and frustration, and they choose to keep feeding that to other people. Limit your time with those people. Not that you should push them out of your life, but limit your time. If you find that you're with people that are constantly activating your nervous system, just have little pockets of time and then walk away from those conversations. Be with those people who calm you, who have some soothing effect on your nervous system. And then like quiet, just be quiet and get like, I can't stress enough like how much we right now in this the chaos of what's going on in the media, and there's so much in recent weeks of like this is happening. All these things are really big stories, but we've got to turn down the faucet on what we're letting in. Like we can't be processing all these big stories. We've got to reduce what we're allowing in through I talk about our psychic membrane in my book, and limit what we're getting, what's getting into us, because we can't make a difference on all these stories. We can't care about everyone, like millions and billions of people. We can care for our small circles, and we can occasionally maybe have a bigger impact, but like keep your circles close and keep your boundaries up about, okay, this is too much information. This is too much for my nervous system to process all of this. So I'm not saying close it off. I'm saying keep it a little bit more limited. And then my other thing is make things, like get your hands busy and be creative, make things, do meaningful, fun, like, I don't care what it is. It rarely is about the product. It's about keeping your hands busy and keeping yourself active in the act of creation and the act of generative processing of things. And that keeps your mind in a better place, and it gives you a little bit of a dopamine hit or whatever when you've like made something that's kind of fun or pretty or something. That helps to regulate yourself as well. So yeah, get outside, make things, be with your people. Just keep doing those things again and again and again. Repeat as necessary, as often as you need to.
So, okay, so here's the question that pops to my mind right away. What is the difference between that and bypassing all of the stuff that's going on? Because I think that's a bit of a paranoia that I have, especially because I mean, this is the work that we do. And I guess I worry that if I shut some of that stuff off, that I'm bypassing or I'm
Yeah,
ignoring all of the stuff that's happening. Like,
yeah,
how I don't know, alleviate my guilt there, maybe, or maybe just if you can explain how it's not, because
yeah,
I get it, I do understand. I can't function in my frontal cortex if I'm activated all the time.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, if you could just talk a little bit about, because I mean, you and I have talked a lot about cancel culture, blah blah blah, whatever. And yeah, just to, maybe if you could speak to that concern about wanting to care about the world, but and not bypass the stuff that's going on, but also be able to sort of do those things that you talked about.
yeah.
In the 2 minutes that I've left you to talk
Yeah,
about that.
exactly.
Sorry.
We'll just cover it all right now. I mean, I think for me, it's recognizing it's, I think you have to learn the more you learn about your own nervous system and recognizing, okay, am I in this moment numbed out, or am I present and just limiting myself to keep my nervous system not too activated? So there's a that you start to notice, oh, this is a numbing, this is a dissociation, this is a shutting down. I can now no longer access my joy. I can't access any of the emotions
Right.
because I'm kind of numbed out. That's a state of bypassing. And that's what we have to learn to recognize. Is like, oh, wait a second. I'm not even finding joy in the things I normally do. I'm not engaging with the people that I normally engage with. None of this has meaning. That's a state of being bypassing, really, of being numbed out.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to Francis Weller's work, is he talks about the two great sins of Western civilization are anesthesia and amnesia. And
Right.
so it's that piece of anesthesia. Like, am I doing this to completely numb out and ignore what's going on in the world? Or am I doing this to stay sane in the world and stay present in the world and actually care about my people and be with my people? And so I think that's the check-in point for me is like, notice how you feel when you're doing that. Is like, and I'm not against occasionally numbing out. I want to be clear on that. Like, because I will do it. Like, I've confessed to
Yep.
you many times how I occasionally will waste an evening watching, quote unquote reality TV. Numb out occasionally. But if you notice yourself doing that consistently to the point where you don't have access to your own emotions, then it's something that you have to challenge in yourself.
That's great.
That makes
So you
sense.
did it in like 2 minutes. That was amazing. We're
And
cured
there are
now.
longer versions, but
Oh, so
yeah.
this is some of the stuff. I mean, obviously, this is a little adjacent to what we'll be talking about in the next webinar coming up, but give us a little promo about what's coming up in webinar 2 of Leadership for Liminal Spaces.
Yeah, so the second one we're going to be talking about. So we talked in the first webinar about what is liminality and unpacking it and what are the gifts of it and what are the strategies for how do we stay equipped in it. And then in the next one, we'll start going into how do we show up as leaders in this liminality and what are the qualities of leadership, particularly for liminal space. And so in that one, we're gonna dig into yeah, what do you need as a leader to work on so that you have capacity? And I want to say we say this again and again, but we expand our definition of leadership isn't just the people in visible leadership or who have a term leader in their job title. It's more about who's willing to show up with something to contribute when there's things are happening and we need to make changes or we need to have an impact. Who's willing to bring their gifts to that movement in whatever way that is. And so that's often leading from behind or leading from the sides, or in some way, it's more of a self leadership of like, yes,
Right.
I'm willing to contribute in some way. And so, what are the ways to be equipped to show up that way? And we've got a kind of a list of things that we're going to offer as qualities of a grounded guide.
Super. Yeah, join us. It'll be end of this month. I forget the exact date. It's all on our website.
It's,
Center
I
for
think
Holy
the last
Space.
last Thursday of every
Last
month is what
Thursday of
we
every month
decided.
is the
Yeah.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is still space in our study group. If you were in the first webinar and want to join the study group, we're going to be unpacking liminality a little bit more. But yeah, if you'd like to join us for webinar 2, that's coming up. You can
And you
register
can get the
online.
recordings of the ones
Yes,
we've already completed as well
absolutely.
if you just finding out about this and you missed the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be excited to have you. Yeah, till next coffee break. We'll try to think we're a little over 10 minutes this time, but I think we're doing pretty good. Enjoy your coffee and we'll see you next time and hopefully see you in our webinars.